married my boss, who is 8 years older than me. She was a total career woman, dedicated to her job, so we decided it was best for me to change jobs after our office marriage. We knew having children might be difficult with my 40-year-old wife. Thus, we were prepared to live our lives just the two of us. But one day, our lives were turned upside down.
What's going on, father?
Well,
My father-in-law Simon, who had mobility issues, showed up at our newly bought condo. He had been living with my wife's younger brother's family but seemed to have been kicked out. When we reached out to understand the situation, we discovered an unbelievable truth. Though hesitant to intrude on our newlywed life, Simon ended up living with us. However, about 2 years into living together, he was diagnosed with stomach cancer and passed away.
Laura, is this your dad's will, isn't it?
What?
While sorting through his belongings to arrange for the funeral, we found his will, hastily prepared after his diagnosis. What was like the content of the will that completely changed my wife's expression? My name is James Smith. Up until a year ago, I worked for a major trading company, just a regular employee. The reason I say, up until a year ago, is because I have since resigned and moved to a smaller company. I married Laura Johnson, who used to be my boss. Office romances weren't forbidden, but we kept our relationship a secret to avoid making our colleagues uncomfortable. After a year of secret dating, the announcement of our engagement was met with applause from our coworkers.
Come on, keeping it a secret was so standoffish.
Congrats, James, Laura.
Best wishes.
Everyone celebrated our marriage with smiles, making us wish we had shared the news sooner. However, despite the welcoming atmosphere, being a married couple in the same department had its challenges. A transfer for one of us was likely but uncertain when. Our company demanded long hours, and we typically ate out for all 3 meals. In that environment, Laura had occasionally been ill even before marriage as well as struggled with her health. She was passionate about her work to pour her all into her career. I didn't want my life partner to overextend herself. However, taking her job away would have been detrimental to her mental health. So, I chose to leave my job and support her while she continued working. I prioritized a work schedule that offered more free time, even if it meant a significant pay cut. I took on the household duties, wanting to support my busy wife, especially in managing her health through our meals. Cooking turned out to be enjoyable. I aimed to make our home a comforting and secure place for Laura. It brought me happiness as well.
I'm sorry for making you do all this.
Like you find fulfillment in your job, I find it in supporting you. It's not a burden at all.
As I said so, she responded with looking remorseful yet grateful.
Thank you.
The new work-life balance seemed to suit me well. Laura had gradually been falling ill less frequently. Her complexion had improved, which made me worry that other men might start noticing her.
Your delicious cooking is to thank.
She always expressed her gratitude, which further motivated me. Before marriage, I had barely cooked, but a year later, I thought I could call myself a part-time house husband. In that evening, as I finished work on time and waited for her return.
Yes, this is delicious enough.
Preparing dinner, I reminisced about our beginnings. Although Laura was my boss, frankly, my first impression of her wasn't great. She was strict with herself and others, always seeming to have a furrowed brow.
Laura is honestly intimidating, isn't she? Reliable as a boss, though.
Always frowning, right? It's a shame. She's pretty.
That was the vibe among the staff at the office. She was capable but seemed unapproachable. Before I really knew Laura, I also had the same impression of her. I always thought of her as a typical, career woman, who wouldn't let men outdo her, someone without any vulnerabilities.
I wonder what kind of guy she'd marry.
Who knows? She might be just a regular woman at home, though.
I had these kinds of conversations with other colleagues. Never would I have imagined at that time that I'd end up being that guy. Just a boss at work, someone I thought wouldn't have much of a role in my life. That's what I thought about Laura. But that all changed the day she casually invited me out for drinks after I made a mistake at work. The bartender accidentally served Laura, who doesn't drink, a whiskey instead of Coke, and she got drunk off a single sip.
Laura, are you okay? I'll get you some water right now.
I'm fine. It takes more than this to get me drunk.
No, you seem pretty drunk to me.
Due to the alcohol, she seemed so innocent, and it was hard to believe she was the tough manager at the office. Furthermore, perhaps because she was drunk, she let out her vulnerabilities.
You think I'm just a spinster at 39, don't you?
No, not at all.
She had always seemed so capable and unapproachable. But I knew better than anyone that she was incredibly sincere about her work and put in a great deal of effort.
If I were more adept at juggling both, I would have liked to date too.
Laura.
Silly to hear from someone my age, but I wanted to fall in love with a man and get married, just like any other woman.
The words she let slip without realizing they were drunk words felt sincere to me. In my mind, she had been a strong, infallible woman who had risen to the position of manager. But the real her was so fragile.
I always have to be on top of things at work, so I end up being too tense.
Well, you are the manager. It's because you take your work so seriously that we can do our jobs under your leading. Thank you for everything.
That's good to hear, thanks. But it's strange. I feel like I can let my guard down around you.
Perhaps it was the alcohol, but it felt good to know she trusted me, even a little. The Laura at work was always so composed and capable of multitasking effortlessly, but there she was, clumsy in a way. While I admired powerful women who wanted it all, work, marriage, children, Laura's earnestness was endearing. From that day on, our private interactions increased, gradually shifting from relationship of colleagues to that of lovers. Actually, when I proposed to her on our one-year anniversary, she initially turned me down.
Can I ask why?
As I nearly cried asking for the reason, close to tears herself, she said,
Even if we start fertility treatments right away, there's no guarantee we'll have children. You deserve someone younger and cuter. I'm sorry for holding you back. Let's end our relationship today.
Saying that, she tried to withdraw. But by then, I couldn't imagine a life without her.
I don't mind a life without children. A life just the two of us is fine. I want to live my life with you.
But
I'm sure I'd regret it for the rest of my life if we parted ways now. Please, marry me.
yes, please.
Her acceptance made me the happiest I had ever been. Until then, it was the happiest day of my life. But now, a year into our marriage, we keep updating our happiest day every day. As I finish preparing dinner, reminiscing about our happy proposal, I think,
yeah, today's perfect too.
The table set with all of Laura's favorites might be a bit over the top, but it'll be just right for her when she comes home tired.
Now, just to wait for Laura to come home.
I thought about making some herb tea while I waited, but that moment, the doorbell suddenly rang.
Is that Laura?
She usually just comes in with her key. Maybe she left it in a rush this morning. I used to think of her as a flawless being when she was my boss, but since becoming my wife, I've noticed she has her absent-minded moments.
Those moments are kind of cute, though.
I find myself bragging, even though I'm alone. I went straight to open the front door.
Welcome back.
However, an unexpected person was standing there, instead of Laura.
Father?
Hi, good evening, James.
It was Laura's father, Simon. I know that it's not unusual for a father to visit his daughter and son-in-law's home. However, he has mobility issues, so whenever we invite him over, we usually go to pick him up from his house. Moreover, it was unprecedented for him to visit suddenly without any prior arrangement, so I was quite surprised.
What's up? Are you okay?
Well,
Sensing there was a situation, I decided to let him in for a moment.
Laura's working overtime, but she should be back soon. Come in, please. You'll catch a cold staying outside.
oh, thank you.
Despite his usual gentle smile, Simon looked somber as he sat down, so I made him some tea.
I'm home.
Laura came back.
Dad!
Surprised to see her father at home, she asked him what happened.
Well, it's a bit embarrassing to say.
It seemed he was kicked out by the family he was living with, Laura's brother and his wife. Since Laura's mother had passed away 5 years ago, Simon had been living with Laura's brother, his wife, and their 2 children. Apparently, it made him feel out of place.
For now, let's have dinner together. I'll prepare a guest bed for you later.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
We're family, you know. It's only natural. Please don't worry about it.
As I said that with a smile, he tried to smile back, though he looked like he might cry. After he went to bed, Laura called her brother. However, the brother's response over the phone was vague and unconvincing.
This won't get resolved over the phone. I'll come over at 9 a.m. tomorrow to talk. All right, 10 a.m. then.
The next day being Saturday and a day off, they agreed to discuss things at Simon's home. The next morning, leaving Simon to watch the house, the 2 of us went to visit his home.
Oh, hello. Long time no see. We'll come in, if that's okay.
Laura's brother, Hans, awkwardly greeted us. We were led into a living room scattered with toys and laundry, without being offered any drinks.
Oh boy. Seriously, came so early in the morning. How annoying.
That was Hans' wife, Victoria. She appeared with disheveled hair and dressed in sweats, obviously just woken up. The 2 children were apparently staying at Victoria's parents' house.
So? What do you want?
Victoria yawned as she sat opposite us. Her attitude turned Laura's face red with anger.
How come you could say that? How could you kick out Dad?
Uncharacteristically emotional, Laura confronted Hans and Victoria.
What do you mean? He's slow with the chores because of his bad leg, and he can't properly look after the kids, so he's a burden. That's why we asked him to leave.
Hey, Vicky.
What? I'm just telling the truth.
Hans barely scolded her, but Laura and I were too appalled to say anything. Living under her husband's family's roof, I couldn't understand the nerve of someone who talked ill of her father-in-law right in front of his relatives. Laura was trembling with anger without uttering a word. I could understand her feelings. It's because when I heard about how Hans and Victoria came to live with them, I had my doubts. 5 years ago, right after Laura's mother passed away, and before the mourning period was over, they got married. It was a shotgun wedding, so it might not be right to blame them for the timing. Still, Laura and Simon were taken aback when Simon brought Victoria home to live with them so suddenly.
Couldn't you have waited until things settled down a bit?
Laura tried to caution them, but Victoria was unabashed and responded carelessly.
But, you know, my family's house is already full with my brother's family living there, and it's super cramped. And renting an apartment would be a waste of money on rent, so it's all good, right?
Laura felt something was off about the couple, Victoria who was in her flashy style, and Hans who was quiet and a so-called introverted guy. However, being inexperienced in love herself, she thought maybe that was just how some relationships were.
We'll take care of your father. You don't have to worry about a thing.
At the time, Laura was already 37 and had resigned herself to possibly being single for life. She had her own place in the city from working and had no plans to move back home. She was concerned about leaving her father, who had mobility issues as well as were living alone as his beloved wife had passed away.
There's plenty of room, so it's fine.
Simon had agreed, and that settled the arrangement for Hans and Victoria to move in. Moreover, since Laura was unable to care for Simon herself, she sent a significant amount of money home every month. Yet, whenever she visited for the holidays, Victoria seemed annoyed by her presence.
Oh, you're back again? Got a lot of free time, huh?
Oh, yeah.
Though faced with complaints, Laura resigned herself to the idea that was just what sisters-in-law were like. Moreover, she was grateful to Victoria for giving Simon grandchildren, considering she might not be able to do so herself. Nevertheless,
as the kids got bigger, it turned out father was more useless than we imagined. It's hard enough taking care of the kids without having to look after a useless old man too.
Victoria laughed mockingly by herself. I remembered Simon showing up at our place yesterday, looking apologetic. He had made the effort to come to our house despite his trouble walking. All because of the situation Victoria had created. I was furious at her.
Even when we want to go on a date as a couple, we can't rely on him for babysitting, and he can't even accept a delivery for us when we're away on vacation.
Wait, you left Dad behind and went on a family vacation?
Of course. Dragging around such a broken-down old man is just exhausting.
Is that true, Hans?
Laura raised her voice in a questioning manner, glaring at Hans.
Well, let's say.
He mumbled something vague. Clearly he was dominated by Victoria, and virtually voiceless in the situation.
It's awful. I've been in touch with Dad once or twice a week. He always said he was happy surrounded by his grandchildren.
We never expected that I would be treated like that. The reality that he had been treated that way was shocking to both of us.
Excuse me, Hans. If you don't mind me asking, where's the money for the vacations and dining out coming from?
It occurred to me to ask. I was doubting Hans' modest salary could cover such expenses beyond living costs. It was likely that the money Laura had been sending for Simon's care was being diverted. Hans seemed caught off guard by the question. He fell silent and looked down.
It's our right to spend the money we're given however we want.
Victoria snapped back at my words.
If Dad was living well, that would be one thing. I wouldn't have any complaints. But this is too much.
Finally, Laura broke down in tears. The tears must be a mix of disappointment in her brother, the heartlessness of her sister-in-law, and regret for not realizing it sooner. When Simon visited us last night, he was significantly thinner than before. It seemed like he hadn't been properly fed.
This is delicious.
Last night, as he ate the meal I prepared, tears welled up in his eyes. To push such a kind man to the edge like that. I couldn't bring myself to forgive Hans and Victoria. I glared at Victoria and spoke up.
Anyway, we'll take father in with us.
Wow, really? Make sure no returns, okay?
Her flippant tone almost made me lash out, even towards a woman. It was Laura's calm voice that stopped me.
We'll take care of Dad from now on, so no more financial support from us.
No way. You know I don't make much, right?
Hans finally spoke up, desperately clinging to Laura.
I know, but so what? There's no reason for us to support you guys anymore.
She firmly refused, and we quickly packed up Simon's belongings. Hans kept trying to negotiate for more money, while Victoria did nothing to help, just smirked at us. I deeply regretted leaving Simon in such a hellish situation. Thus, Simon to live with us. We enjoyed a peaceful life together for a while.
Father, why don't we go here? There's a new pizza restaurant that opened by the lake. Looks nice, doesn't it?
Yes, sounds good. The pizza seems delicious.
Then, let's go this weekend.
Life with him being considerate and attentive was peaceful, and we had fun every day. He quickly regained his health after moving in with us. He returned to a normal weight and smiling more often.
Father, how about we adopt a cat?
A cat? Huh.
One day, I suggested adopting a shelter cat. Laura's family had a cat when her mother was still alive. Simon was particularly fond of it. With us often out for work, we thought adopting a cat could keep him company during the day. He was thrilled to agree.
Hey now, Kiki, don't climb on my back.
Simon named the adopted black male cat Kiki and cherished him deeply. Watching him play with Kiki, Laura and I would smile peacefully. We wished for that lifestyle to continue forever. However, one day, a health checkup revealed Simon had stomach cancer. He passed away not long after. The 2 years he lived with us were filled with laughter and joy. To me, who had lost my biological father, he was an irreplaceable parent.
We need to prepare for the funeral.
I'd start to tear up if I let my guard down. The sorrow made it hard to move. I needed to focus on the funeral preparations at that moment. While sorting through Simon's belongings to choose a photo for the funeral.
What is this?
I stumbled upon a will, presumably hastily prepared after his diagnosis.
Laura, look at this. It is Simon's will, isn't it?
Really?
Upon seeing his will, Laura's complexion changed dramatically. The content surprised me too.
It reads, all the inheritance is to go to my daughter and son-in-law.
The will also expressed a strong desire not to leave a penny to Hans and Victoria.
Even after everything, I thought Dad would say, split the inheritance between siblings. He hadn't forgiven them.
Laura had been sending money home since she moved out. She had been transferring it directly into Hans's account since he and Victoria moved in, not expecting things to turn out that way, but before that, it went into Simon's account. He had saved all of it, without spending any. The will stated that the money was to be used towards the mortgage of the condo we bought. Tears overflowed from Laura's eyes, unstoppable.
He could have used it. He must have been scrimping on living expenses. I wished he had enjoyed more delicious food while he was still healthy.
She voiced her regrets. Among the envelope containing the will, there was also a letter addressed to me.
To James. Even though we're not related by blood, I've always thought of you as my own son. Cooking together was a great joy. The beefsteak and tomato soup set we made together was the best homemade meal I've ever had in my life. I wonder if I'll get scolded by my wife in heaven for saying that. Let's keep it a secret from her. Thank you for renting a wheelchair for me and taking me on trips. After my stomach got bad, you made me pottage that I could eat. I'm deeply grateful for that. I'm so glad you became Laura's husband. Thank you for everything. I'll leave Kiki and Laura in your care. Please take good care of my precious daughter.
The letter, filled with words of gratitude, made me cry endlessly. When stomach cancer was found, it was already too late for surgery. During chemotherapy, he barely ate, but he shed tears of joy drinking the clear soup I made from boiled vegetables.
The beefsteak and tomato soup set we made together was the best meal I've had in my life, it says.
That's so like he had left a message ahead, knowing I'd regret.
That's the kind father for you.
We both said, smiling through tears. We cried with laughing. After the funeral, Victoria, who hadn't shed a tear, made a fuss.
I just wouldn't leave, even when you tried to kick me out.
We planned to transfer the title of the family home and land to Laura, according to Simon's will. When we informed Hans' family, Victoria tried to barge into our house days later. However, Laura didn't even let her on the doorstep.
You can stay if you pay rent.
As if I'd pay.
Oh, really? Then I'll call the police.
What? Why? This is a family matter.
Laura looked at Victoria coldly and said,
Family? Who with whom? I've never once thought of you as family.
What?
To me, you're a stranger. So I can call the police without hesitation.
Laura reached for her phone. Thus, Victoria hurried away. A mother is strong, right? Yes, Laura, who was 44, miraculously became pregnant despite having given up hope. She finds fulfillment in her career, so if she wishes, I hope she continues working after giving birth. I don't mind becoming a full-time homemaker, though, since it's a high-risk pregnancy, her health must come first. We want to avoid unnecessary expenses, especially giving money to such unworthy people. I believe Simon and his wife I never got to meet are watching over us from heaven. Let's all be happy as a family. I resolved once more to protect my beloved wife and our unborn child, no matter what.